So I think for me the FX3 is a Sony a7S3, but if it was custom built for the things that I like to shoot. So recently I've been thinking about getting Sony's new FX3 camera, but for a few different reasons I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Let me tell you why. So since announcing this camera, basically everyone that's made a video about it has said pretty much the same thing, how it's the same camera with the same specs, same video specs. Yeah, pretty much just the same camera. And you know, I can't really argue with specs, so I actually tend to agree, but something about the camera just keeps kind of pulling me back in. So the majority of videos I've seen about the FX3 so far have pretty much just been people complaining about how it is the same camera as the a7S3. And I do agree with that, because if I was coming from the a7S3, I definitely wouldn't be selling it in order to upgrade to the FX3, just purely for the fact that you don't actually get any more or any better video capabilities. But if you're like me and you're coming from something a little bit cheaper, the a7 III, something with a little bit less video specs, then you've got that kind of decision to make. As I've mentioned in a few other videos, I'm looking to upgrade the a7 III, and when I'm looking to upgrade, the a7S3 actually seems like the perfect upgrade for me. So I had to then compare the FX3 to the a7S3, and when I did that, basically what I did is I decided to have a good think about what do I actually need a camera for, what do I use it for, what are the main uses of a camera for me. I shoot video, pretty much 99% video. I mean, the only photography I do is for like a YouTube thumbnail, or you know, the odd photography on like a trip abroad or something like that. To me, this camera seems to be for filmmakers, for people that want to shoot professional video, client work, and people that want to work in a purely video oriented workflow. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please consider leaving it a like, that really does help, and subscribe if you want to see some more content from myself. So the actual body of the FX3 is one of the few things that actually makes it unique and different from the a7S III. People just kind of scoff at that and say they've put the same camera in a different body. Great, but that's actually one of the most overlooked things there is. If you've ever used a camera in the quote-unquote cinema line, you'll know that there's various custom buttons on it that basically are there for video shooting purposes, solely for video shooting purposes. So dedicated buttons for things like zebras, peaking, white balance, you know, iris, the list kind of goes on. Having these dedicated buttons makes such a difference if you're shooting in like a high pressure environment. So say you're running gun shooting, you're darting all over the place, you have to keep changing your camera settings on the fly. Having these dedicated video buttons just makes the experience so much easier, and it's one less thing to think about. And for me, once you kind of have that, and once you've used that in a professional kind of environment, then it's really hard to not have that. I'm aware that on like the a7 III and the a7S III, you can, you know, change the function buttons to whatever you want, so I get that's kind of the same thing. But what I do know is the FX3 has, I think it's 2 more of these kind of custom buttons than the a7 III, so take that as you will. It's not a massive improvement, but I think it's just great to have all that stuff on the camera, body ready to go. No need to go into settings or anything like that to find the things you want to change. One of the main things it doesn't have compared to other cinema cameras is built-in ND filters. Now, a lot of people who've talked about this camera on YouTube have said it doesn't have built-in NDs, that's disappointing. Now, I've used built-in NDs and they're great, don't get me wrong, they're absolutely excellent. And I would love to have them in the FX3. I could be wrong on this, but I also heard that the reason why they can't put them in is because of the IBIS, and if it was me, if it came between having IBIS or built-in NDs, I'd much rather have the IBIS and then just stick to putting, you know, normal ND filters in front of the lens, like I've been doing with pretty much all my other cameras since I've had a camera really. So if it is a space thing and they just can't fit both in, I definitely would rather have the IBIS. Something else that I've seen that people have been talking about is the fact that on the FX3 you're losing the EVF. Now, I don't really use the EVF, as I said before, I don't really do a lot of photography. I know some people use it when they're filming things, but I really never use it, so losing that for me is not a big deal. I do understand though why some people would rather have that, so if you do use the EVF when you're filming for composition or whatever, then yeah, definitely go for the A7S3. I suppose one of the benefits would be that it's easier to use that when you're in bright conditions, but I usually use an external monitor anyway, so that's pretty good in really bright conditions, better than the screen on the back of the camera anyway. So I think looking at the initial prices, the FX3 comes in at about £500 more expensive than the A7S3. So for that extra £500, what is it that you're really getting? So it comes with this nice top handle that allows you to, you know, plug in XLR audio. Now this might seem a little bit pointless, or maybe just a little bit not worth an extra £500, but for me personally, I use XLR audio in my job, and whenever I have to record any audio, then I do have to use the cameras that are in the work, so they're bigger cinema cameras. Sometimes these cameras aren't the right camera for specific shoots, so sometimes you do want something a bit quicker and more portable, but you also want to get that really good sound quality, and sometimes the shotgun mics that we use just don't cut it for like professional client work. So being able to put this on a smaller form camera would be really beneficial for me, because I could use better audio equipment, get better audio, but still use the portable small handheld camera. So yeah, it adds more professional audio recording options to the camera. I'd say probably like 80% of the stuff I do is run and gun, so I use a top handle on a camera cage anyway all the time, so having that on it, that's just a big plus. And then obviously all the mounting options that come with the body, so there's really no need for a cage. Although I'm sure companies like SmallRig will probably come out with a cage anyway, and I'll probably buy it anyway if I get the camera. So the FX3 does come with a built-in internal fan, which I really do appreciate. I think that's a really cool thing to have in such a small camera, but from what I have heard, overheating isn't actually really much of an issue in the A7S3, so I don't really know if you really would need this unless you're filming really long content, you know, in hot weather conditions. And I live in Scotland, so that's definitely not going to be an issue for me. So I think for me, the FX3 is a Sony A7S3, but if it was custom built for the things that I like to shoot. So that's obviously just a personal preference, that's how I feel about the camera. How do you guys feel about the camera? Like, what's your opinion on it? Is it something you're looking to pick up? Or is it really just the same camera for more money? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit of a different one. Just wanted to talk about the FX3. Hopefully I'll be able to start some conversation in the comment section. Let me know what one you're planning to get, the FX3 or the A7S3. It seems like everybody on YouTube has different opinions about different cameras, pretty much depending on what they own. So just know that if you are looking for a camera and you're getting caught up in all the noise and all the difference in opinions about these cameras, there's no perfect camera for anybody. It really comes down to what you need it for. So take that into consideration when you're choosing what camera you need. What camera is right for you is going to completely depend on what you plan on using it for and what you want to get out of a camera. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do the usual, hit like and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And if you're wondering why I'm driving, what this angle is, it's for a future project, but I just thought it'd be something interesting to look at while I thought about the camera. So, guy's staring at me like, what the f is that in his bonnet?